my dear friends. We're in North California, in Los Angeles, and today I want to introduce you a new project that I created especially for you through my traveling in United States and communicating with lots of people, meeting their different challenges that they have in life. And thank you very much for letting me help you and give you a guide into solving all these challenges, helping you in receiving your inner tools to open your abilities and capacities to manage in your daily life. Thank you very much for the great experience that I had with you in the mountains, in retreats, in the different places of power. It's just amazing. I love all of you. And as a present, as a gift, I was meditating every day. And this product was created for you. It will be a series of webinars devoted to the topic of dependencies and addictions. But don't hurry up to switch off because I'm not talking about like drug or alcohol addictions. No, we are going to talk about emotional dependencies in our relationships with people who are around us and with whom we have to deal every day. It can be your family, your friends, your relatives, your co-workers, your bosses, your employees, because we are not lonely in this world, and we were born to develop ourselves through this communication, and very often these communication are influencing to us and creating different patterns, behavior dependencies, emotional dependencies that put us into the cage. And sometimes it's so difficult to get out, and you're like feeling yourself that yes, I can do more, but something doesn't let me do this, or someone's behavior just keep me like in prison, and I feel that I can do more, I have much more capacities, and there's just no chance to realize them. If you had this feeling before, I believe that these webinars are for you, or at least you can learn how to help those who deserve. Because, for example, just a few days ago I was talking to one amazingly wonderful woman, and she had a really great life experience. She passed through a roller coaster of her life, and she's trying to help her son, who is a really talented musician, and he really can do much more than he does at the moment. But there are always some circumstances that doesn't let him truly realize his talent as a musician, as a composer, as a really true talented person. So we're gonna talk about how to open our capacities and not let our emotional and relationship dependencies and attitudes to influence and to suppress us, guiding us to some negative habits and even addictions sometimes. Generally speaking, all humanity nowadays is talking about freedom and fighting for freedom in really great movements. Sometimes people even fight with weapons for their freedom, for freedom of their country, or to liberate their ability to express themselves. And we see last hundred of years, we can see lots of gay parades and bisexual parades for people who are fighting for their right to express the freedom of their love, of their sexual attitudes. And we can see lots of art parades and demonstrations of art fighting for freedom to express, especially the contemporary art. We can see this fighting for freedom even in fashion, when they are making all these sometimes crazy hairstyle and makeup, and we can see this fighting in different kind of performances. And I see there are lots of musicals and operas and theater performances, and through art people are also fighting for their freedom, and it's great. We can be a part of some environmental movement, or a movement of vegans, or any other kind of movement, and it's really great. It's just showing that deep inside of us we have this necessity for freedom. We have this strong desire to be free, and this is what unites all of us. And it doesn't matter of your age, your profession, your nationality, your religious belief, or the country where you live. The desire for freedom unites all of us and brings us together and makes us common. But talking in person, in our daily life, very often from these big movements, we really miss the daily life freedom. And we sometimes don't see how little habits, little behavior patterns make us true dependent. For example, you can imagine how usually the morning of an ordinary person, of a common guy, starts usually from a cup of coffee, and you would say like, there is nothing wrong, it's not a drug. Well, I don't want to drag you into some kind of discussion if coffee is drug or not, if it is dangerous for your health or healthy. No. What I really want you to direct your attention at is to the moment of how sometimes we're dependent on little tiny things of our life. And when we lose the connection with this habit, we lose our inner point of peace. We lose our harmony, our inner balance. And this is the true dependence. So, returning back, talking about coffee, for example, like you wake up in the morning and you make your coffee with milk and sugar, or you make a black coffee with ginger, some kind of sauce or flavor, and you drink it little by little, especially if the morning is cold, or you got up late and you're in a rush to your work and you drink it so fast to make you active. But in fact, all these things like cold, or getting late to your job, or having like feeling that you have to go into the new day and new discussions with someone who you have challenge in your relationships, like this flavor of coffee is making you feel comfortable, safe, protected, balanced. Maybe it is not coffee, maybe it is like your favorite fruit, maybe it is some sweets, maybe it is some kind of clothes, or some kind of little, these little rituals of our daily life. Everyone have these little rituals, and when you're not doing this, it's like panic starts to come. Maybe not so bright and vivid as I showed to you now, but like feeling of disbalance, discomfort is like continue coming. So what I'm asking you to do, if you don't mind, just to make an experience. We're all like scientists a little bit, so make this experiment, a study of yourself. If you have these little dependencies, just try to quit for 21 days from, I don't know, candy, sweet, ice cream, some kind of fruit, or bread, or coffee, or communication with some kind of particular person. And just observe what is happening with your emotions, with your behavior, with your mind, and even with your physical body, how it reacts. Because sometimes these little dependencies, they create in us like even physical, even chemical dependency. And when we don't do this, and we don't communicate with some kind of person, we don't do this coffee ritual, or we don't go shopping for a long time, our blood pressure can go down, we can feel dizziness, or some kind of Even physical reaction can appear. Just observe yourself, write everyday diary and then send to me so I can give you a deeper explanation of what is really happening with you, because all of this is just the top of the iceberg. But what really is happening has a really deep, energetical, emotional, and sometimes karmical connection that is influencing from our subconscious. And that's why in one of the first topics of our webinars will be devoted to family dependencies or family addictions that is going from generation to generation. So I would ask you to prepare a little bit about studying your genetic tree, your previous generations, some of your ancestors. It's good that you know some of them, at least like 3, 4, better 7 generations before. This would be very important, because all their patterns, all their behavior, habits and addictions, they're all influencing to us since childhood. And for example, especially lately, I noticed that some children have too much concentration on negative emotions. Usually in our retreats that we are like weekend retreats for families or for women, they bring their children, and we have a separate program for children, Talentida, where a special spiritual master is working with them, and she's just amazing, and digging out the talent of your child and helping your child to open it and to live with this talent, to find the way how to realize it in life. So during these retreats, I can observe how the first days children come with so much habits of negative emotions like offense, aggressivity, of being scandalous or other things. And in fact, we are those creatures that don't have negative emotions at all. We come to this world absolutely positive. And if you observe just born babies, you would see that they don't have negative emotions. Yes, they cry, they yell, they have tears, but not because they're in offense with someone, not because they're aggressive. It's just their way of communication with the world. But as we continue growing, this negative thing coming to our lives becomes a habit, and then becomes a part of your character. And it's not normal, it's not yours. It's something that became an addiction, some negative thing that entered into your subtle bodies and moving your mind, your conscious, your actions, your emotions, your relationships. That's why we'll pay a lot of attention to our ancestors who are influencing to us, and for our future generations, our dependency on kids. If you have kids, or you're planning to have, or even if you don't, we do have these dependencies, especially lots of women who are planning their life, for example, choosing a partner not for herself but a father for her child, or choosing a place where to live, in which city, not to feel herself comfortable but thinking about the child. I don't say it's bad, it's like, good, because when you care about your child, you're a true mother or father, it's great. But when you forget about yourself and you're putting yourself completely in the dependency on behavior, on reaction, emotional or physical reaction on your children, this is wrong for them. And through this you create a negative karma for your children. And we will work with it too. We're going to cover the topic of relationship dependency and sexual addiction. We will talk about how our sexual energy flows, and how often you really need to have your intimate life, how to develop it, and how to manage your relationships, not to be a victim of such, I would say, negative things as jealousy, pretentious offenses, or losing the sexual attraction to your partner, not having orgasmic states, or being cold with one another. It's all just results of some kind of sexual addictions or dependencies that people usually have. What else we are going to talk about in our series of webinars, completely interesting, is financial dependency. There are like two main kinds of this dependency, and as I observe in life, and there are different lots of varieties of them, but two main, like sometimes people are too much addicted to money and you see only the dollars in their life and they're like eyes, and they're like measuring everything, how much does it cost, if it's good enough, if it's expensive enough, and they build up their relationships and friends, and based on this money thing, and they think that the more money I have, the better I am. And this type of people very often like go out of the spiritual way. They say, oh, this old stuff about meditation, yoga, subconscious, self-development, it's all stupid. What is really important is money. And the other thing, the other side of financial dependency, when people say that spirituality and money don't match, and they pretend that they're so much spiritual and they don't need really money, and they can manage their life without having a lot of money, and they say like rich people cannot be spiritual, but they are dependent. And we can see that when they start to count someone else's money, and they, for example, say, oh, your courses are so expensive, or your pricing is so big, and they say like, you're spiritual people, how dare you charge money for the service that you give? And they like very much, they like to manipulate the image of Christ and saying like, you know, Christ never took money. But they don't say any, and they don't even see that Christ, yes, he didn't took money, but he was demanding much more from his students, like to refuse from their private property, from their families, from their work, and to go out of social life and follow him. And this is much greater sacrifice than just giving money. These people are counting always someone else's money. They even don't see how all that charity that, for example, we receive in our seminars and retreats from people who are really grateful for their healings and purifications, for the balance that they achieved in life. They're giving it as a charity donation, and all this amount of money really goes to research, psychological researchers, energetical researchers, to provide spiritual development for children, for teenagers who cannot afford this, and some of them even cannot afford their other education, and we pay for them to receive this spiritual and at least even grammar education sometimes. So these people are like this. And we're going to talk about where this financial dependency comes, and why some people think that money is dirt, and money and spiritual, how does it match or it doesn't match with one another. And we also will have not only talking, but practical advices, and some I will give you some sessions to open the way of prosperity for your life, so you won't like think, okay, do I have to buy some food for me and my children, or go to some spiritual retreat that I really want to go? So we will work with that too. We will have a webinar concerning the dependency of society, of different egregors, because we're living in this life and we just cannot be out of communication with different egregors, and like a family egregor, or like work egregor of our fun club or something else. But some of them are really constructive and can give you a lot in your life, but some of them can really destroy your life. So we're gonna study, we're gonna explore all about the egregor dependency. We will talk about spiritual dependency, because nowadays it's like a disease, you know. Sometimes people are becoming true fanatics of some religious belief, and they're becoming dependent. There are lots of false gurus who claim themselves like, I'm a guru or I'm a spiritual master, but really what they want, they are like manipulating the psychic of people, taking out their money and having sexual relationship with them. Just a few weeks ago I had this communication with one woman who suffered a lot because she was a really deep spiritual seeker, and she thought that she found her spiritual master, and a few years later she recognized that he really wasn't, and his interest was only in her, like just a woman, and his interest was in financial relationships and sexual relationships. And it was really hard trauma for her, because like this type of traumas can block the spiritual way for the person. So we will talk about how to recognize which if I'm spiritually dependent or I'm spiritually free, and how to manage with spiritual dependency, and how to help people who are in these spiritual dependencies from their false gurus, masters and other like teachers, because nowadays there are too much of them and it's really difficult to recognize who is who, you know. And of course we will talk about the freedom of our individuality, because freedom, as I said in the beginning of our communication, is something that truly unites us, and the calling of freedom is something that we live for, and we're searching it in different states, in art, in relationships, in spiritual development, in our work. And sometimes I know that people have their inner problems and they have a fear to face them, so they run away, like trying to help the others, you know, having problems in your own relationships. You're trying to help the other people to manage their life, and you're like escaping your own problems, or you have on. And we can continue. So I was talking about if you're like having problems in your family relationships and you're running away to your work, and you work hard and extra hours, you're a workaholic just to stay over there, to escape facing challenges in relationships, and any kind of family requires that. Or for example, you have like emotional stress in your work, and then you run to the gym, and you're like working hardly in this gym with all the equipment, or you're like doing this hard sport just to express all this suppressed feeling and challenges with your coworkers or your boss. It is becoming a physical dependency. So we're going to talk about all these little types of dependencies that we have in our daily life. And these kind of dependencies, they're really taking us so much far away from our true freedom. They're taking us so much far away from our true feeling of balance, harmony, feeling of safety, stability, protection. We're all looking for love, for peace, for being happy, from feeling pleasure of every day of our life. And there is like, in fact, it's really easy just to turn your face to your true harmony, to be open to your true freedom, and all these little things, little escapes, that becoming little by little dependencies, they will disappear. It's easy. The key is inside of you. And in our webinars, we're going to find this key and unlock the door to your true freedom. Good luck, my dear. I send you lots of love, and I wish you to find your way to love, happiness, and freedom of your individuality.